Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat like change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. Today, our guest Steve is a creator of SRG Universe, which is creating the Supershow the Game, a fantasy wrestling collectible card game that has taken the tabletop world by storm. Over the last 10 years, Steve and his team has independently published and self-distribute and really expand his brands into a powerhouse that's really beloved by fans worldwide, actually. So thank you so much, Steve, for joining us on the podcast today.
As you mentioned, 10 years we've been designing what is, according to Board Game Geek Reviews, the #1 rated wrestling card game of all time. And we have hundreds of reviews over the past decade. And it's been nothing short of a dream come true for me over the past 10 years to be doing this as my full-time career, and the different opportunities that it's opened up for me is really special. And I'm really grateful to have this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Can you, I know that you have been doing this for a while now, but what inspired you to start this journey about 10 years ago?
So it was a very interesting point in my life. At the time, I was actually studying biomedical informatics in college. I was looking to get into like a dental program and then go on to maybe study, higher level science, genetics, and things like that. But I always loved playing games. One game particularly, which was a huge part of my childhood, was a game called Raw Deal. It was a wrestling-themed game with WWE/WWF branding. It was produced by Comic Images. The creators were a man by the name of Baron Vanger Toth and Mike Foley. I really looked up to Baron as a kid because that was my biggest hobby. As a child, I traveled around the United States and made a lot of friends from Raw Deal, and I played it very competitively. I was really lucky to play my brother in the largest qualifying tournament that they ever held in the finals. We were the first brother duo to make the finals in such a big event. My brother ended up letting me win, which was really great of him because I went on to win tickets to WrestleMania and they go to like a championship event. So Raw Deal was just a huge part of my life. Ultimately, unfortunately, the game didn't last very long, and the creator, Baron, he had passed, which was, a tragedy for a lot of people, including myself, who consider Baron an idol and someone we looked up to. But then over the years, we kind of were looking for something to fill the void of Raw Deal, and, a lot of trading cards come and go, and we tried a bunch of them. And at one point, we played this game called NFL Tops Attack, which was like $1 a pack. It was sold at Target, and me and my friends bought a whole bunch of packs, and we were building it, and the game was pretty awful. It really had nothing to do with football. It just was like numbers on a card, right? You just put a card down, you flip it over. If my number was higher than yours, I scored a touchdown, and that was it. And it was like kind of like insulting as it was, even though it was only $1 a pack. So what I ended up doing with my friends was I took these rules for their game and I just added rules. I didn't really change anything from their core mechanics. So one of the things about the game was there was a rarity on the bottom of the card, which the rarity translated to how strong the card was too. And it could be either 3, 4, or 5 stars. So what I did was I made a team of 16 players instead of just an arbitrary number, like a football team. And you played 4 rounds of this game. So you didn't know which 4 players you were going to send in each round. But also, we used the star value as a salary cap. So like you had to play within a certain amount of stars on your team. You couldn't just buy all the cards you wanted and play all the 5 5-star cards and just have like a mathematically better team than anyone. And we started running tournaments and stuff with this game that was like not popular at all according to our rules. And we had about 3 stores of people playing tournaments according to the rules that I had created. And then one of my mixed martial arts. I'm personally not a fan of mixed martial arts, but I was very happy to create the rules to the game. I had created the rules and how the game was played, and then a couple friends filled in like all the card effects. And we had this idea to pitch it to Tops and tell them, hey, we had one of your games, it didn't do well, we made it do very well, let's pitch our own product. And Tops really was astonished that we had a play group for Tops Attack because the game flops so hard. They checked out the product that we wanted, right? And again, people like, how did you get a meeting? Honestly, I just Googled the phone number and I just called and called and called, and eventually somebody gave me a meeting. So again, it was just a lot of persistence over and over again. So eventually got a meeting. They loved this concept that we came up with. They liked the group of people that we were with. I had mentioned to them that I played Raw Deal my whole life. I was a very good player. I saw the early stages of what made it popular, in my opinion. I said I saw the things that kind of made it decline, and I feel those are the things that you have to account for. The ultimate thing that they said was they didn't feel that there was a market for people who wanted MMA and wrestling cards. And I personally agreed with that wholeheartedly. I don't think the people that are super UFC fans, not saying there's not some sort of crossover, but I feel like from the gaming industry, that's not like the go-to thing. So they had suggested doing wrestling. And to me, that was like a dream come true. I was like, I would love to design a wrestling game. And the people I were with didn't want to change to a wrestling game. They said, this is the product that we made. We're sticking with it. Like I said, I disagree. I feel like we have a really good opportunity. And the reason is, again, I was so devoted to Raw Deal. I mean, I felt like it was such a great game that I didn't want to come out and be like, I'm trying to replace something. So I pitched them the idea of the board game, which had similar mechanics, but instead of building a deck, you moved a token around the board. And Tops really loved it. They thought it was great. They want to do something, but they said they want to take what I've developed and they want to make it into a traditional trading card model. Now, I was a little conflicted because, again, I didn't want to replace Raw Deal, but I also felt that being realistic, number one, there was a fantastic opportunity in front of me, and number two, Raw Deal was most likely not coming back, right? So what I then started to do is let me take all the aspects of my favorite game and let me highlight to me what became the problems with it, what I didn't like about it, and I started going, okay, I don't like that it was based off wrestling, but you can't always win with your wrestling move, right? I felt like a wrestling game, you should have to hit your finishing move. That's the most exciting part about wrestling. And then I was like, you have to have some sort of pinfall mechanic. And then like title belts, right? Title belts were specific to a champion in a store. Not anybody could be the champion. And we should have somebody who controls, what kind of stipulation you're playing in. So basically I just looked at Raw Deal and said, how could I make it more feel like an actual wrestling game rather than a really cool game that had pictures of wrestling on it? And eventually I went back to Tops and I said, I'm on board. I would love to make this a trading card game. I designed the game for them, and it was a very long process. They loved it. They promised me probably more times than I could count that I would have a contract and a deal with them. And it didn't pan out. And at the time, I was very naive, very inexperienced. I was paying money for like trademarking and copywriting and things that I didn't know if I would need or not in case they would try to take my idea. And after I'd say over a year of going in and meetings and showing the product and not getting a contract, I decided to just take whatever money I had. At the time, I probably had about $600 saved up. And I commissioned an artist that I had found online through a website. And at the time, I think I was paying like $10 an image, right? Which is unbelievable, right? Now I'm paying hundreds of dollars per image. I think I just got lucky. A new artist, me and him, we both didn't know anything. I was like something to the effect of, I need 30 pieces of art, and I paid him maybe $300 to $400 or something like that.
Okay.
And I made myself the decision that I was going to try to self-publish this game at a Gen Con, which is a major gaming convention,
Yeah.
because I couldn't wait anymore. I had put so much into this,
Mhm.
and I brought out samples. I mean, I did whatever I could in my budget. I'll never forget. I'm forever grateful for my business partner John, and one of my great friends Chad Gropak. We didn't have dice for our game, and we bought the solution that I had come up with was we were going to print out stickers. So I brought like label paper and I printed stickers out, and we had to cut them out by hand on these little tiny dice, and we
Yeah.
made our own custom die, using like blank counting cubes that they would use in like a kindergarten.
Yeah.
So like we made our own die. We printed cards locally at a shop. Some of them didn't even have rounded borders at first. You know, they were like pointy. And the cherry on top was we didn't have a package for it. And my uncle, who was very close to me, I don't even know what made him say it, but he's like, you should package it in a Chinese food container. They're probably really cheap to buy. And that's what we did. So we actually like put the whole thing together with like a rule book we printed locally, the
Yeah.
30 cards that I had, these dice that we had handmade, and a Chinese food container with a sticker on it. And like one, that was really eye catching, right? Like people were like, what is this?
Yeah.
And we like sold like almost 200 copies, like really, really quickly. People like, this game is amazing. It's awesome.
Mhm.
And somebody had suggested Kickstarter. A decade ago, Kickstarter was not as prominent. So I had no idea what it was. And we took the Kickstarter and get there. I mean, every week, my friend Maurice Thompson, we call him Dasmo, may he rest in peace, he would travel with me every Thursday to a store in the tri-state area. We would go to New Jersey, you know, areas of Pennsylvania or out in Long Island, and we would demo the game. We had one little pop-up banner. We would give away T-shirts and things that we would get from like independent wrestling shows. And we did that for a whole month, even more than a month, but through the span of the Kickstarter, trying to get backers. Ultimately, I had an uncle who was very good to me, and I think we were about $800 short the few days before, and he put in the 800 to make sure we hit our goal. And then we produced the first, you know, official version of the game, outside of a Chinese food container. And you know, from there, it was just the mechanics were really fun. We were running events at Gen Con once we had product, and you know, there were times we had 90 to 100 people playing in these events, which again is a total dream come true. And little by little, we did more Kickstarters and we added expansions, and the game just kept growing. And one of the most amazing parts of the start and the journey was to make a fantasy like wrestling federation, and people really gravitated towards that. They would make their characters, their personas, they would book matches, and the game just kind of kept growing. And I'd say about at 4 year point, I got into a state where I had always wanted it to be, with different cards you could choose from. And people really like that. So I kind of over that. But one of the things that made Super Show really popular is that all the cards in your deck were numbered. If you see in the corner, there's a number. This one's 16. And every time we released we gave you a different card for each number. So if you wanted to build your deck, you could mix up all your cards, but you have to play cards numbered 1 through 30. So I think very balanced, but there's still some choices that you can make. After about year 4, we were able to get like multiple choices at each card number, which was always the goal of the game. And really started to get even more and more popular, because not only could you play like the box sets that we were offering, but people could treat it like a trading game and customize their deck the way we always intended. So to that point where people had the options that we just wanted them to have, I feel like the game really started to snowball. And prior to COVID, we were on like a very huge trajectory, and COVID obviously shut down the whole industry. But we were really lucky because, as awesome it was to the community and the world, we had this huge loyal group of people now playing Super Show conventions in stores, but via Zoom. So they're home doing production here in the United States. So it was like for us. So we were able to kind of not only provide an outlet for people to ask immediately and pretend to rest games. But we were able to keep our business afloat through that really crazy time. So that is kind of like paraphrasing in a nutshell where how this happened and kind of how we got to this point.
Steve, let me stop you for a little bit. I still see a lot of breakage in the video stream. Do we want to try to record it offline so we don't need to do live streaming this time? Can you hear me okay?